You're listening to the Motivated Mindset Podcast with Bobby Stein.
Hello, my name is Bobby Stein, your host of the Motivated Mindset Podcast, where I share candid conversations with extraordinary folks from all walks of life to discover just what motivates their mindset. Welcome in and thanks for listening. Welcome into another episode of the Motivated Mindset Podcast, and today we have a special guest who just so happens to sponsor the channel. He's a sole proprietor, a visionary, and an entrepreneur who runs and operates VonBaron motorcycles. So without further delay, let's welcome in the wonderful Chris Kehl, and thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. All right, I think we got it now. Welcome to the Motivated Mindset Podcast, where my very special guest today is Mr. Chris Kehl. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you, Bobby? Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Actually, in person doing this interview. Many times I find myself on the telephone, so I get to stare right at your eyeballs.
All right.
You know, I was fascinated, Chris. My office is located directly across the parking lot of your offices, and I noticed the first day I pulled in here a few years back, and I saw the signage on your windows, VonBaron motorcycles, and I thought to myself, that is so cool because the motif and the vibe is almost like a World War I or like the Red Baron with the British and the German overtones and. Pretty cool. How did you find yourself, how did you get into the motorcycle business to begin with?
Well, it's a long standing. When I was a kid, I used to ride motorcycles. Basically, my cousin started me out on motorcycles, and I was always enamored by him racing and doing dirt bikes and stuff like that. And when I was growing up, I tried to get my father to buy me a dirt bike. He wasn't having it. So as I got older, things kind of turned into play. And one day I had the opportunity to start a motorcycle company. And since I had nothing better to do, it was about time I did it. So that's how I kind of got started.
So was your first motorcycle like a mini bike or when you finally got around to it?
No, I went all in. I bought a big, huge dirt bike and,
off-road dirt?
Off-road dirt bike. It was a 1989 Honda CR 125.
So two-stroke. So isn't that funny? You can remember the exact make, model, and...
Oh, yeah. Wishing I never sold it. That's how it goes, though.
Yeah, worth some money today. So you do some trail riding and things like that?
Yeah, I used to, but I'm getting up close to half a century here, so I've been slowing down on that and sticking to the road.
Decided to wrench on them and work on them. So VonBaron motorcycles is a... So you do repairs, I would assume, and
yeah, we do repairs, restorations. We do custom work. We mostly specialize in vintage motorcycles, sidecars, and trike kits.
Sidecars, yeah. I noticed there was a sign on your window that said Watsonian sidecars, and I thought tell me a little bit about. Are you a dealer for them, or do you?
We're actually the distribution hub for all North America. We actually have dealers throughout the United States. Watsonia is a very old sidecar company. They started in 1912 and they're established in Berkshire, England.
Interesting.
It's a really cool company. They have lots of sidecars. They've been in sidecar racing and then all kinds of different areas of the sidecar world. They don't longer sidecar race anymore, but they did for probably into the late 60s, I believe.
That is cool. And so how did you find them or become a partner with them?
Well, actually, I had built a motorized bicycle, and I was looking for a sidecar for the bicycle.
For the bike?
I wanted to put a sidecar with this bicycle. I was building a motorized bicycle. And I looking around on the internet, Googling stuff, and found that the Watsonian made a bicycle sidecar. Well, they're in England. So I was bound and determined to try to find this company who made them and see if I could get one. I ended up speaking to a gentleman by the name of Doug Bingham. He was nicknamed the king of sidecars a long time ago. But he was a really gracious guy, and he was going to put me in touch with Watsonian in England to see if I could hook up with a bicycle sidecar. Unfortunately, though, Doug Bingham passed, and I had to find a new way, a new route to find the sidecar. Through the internet, I ended up meeting a gentleman by the name of Stan Dibben, and Stan Dibben was a world champion sidecar racer back in 1953.
How old is this guy?
I would say he's about 97 now. And he's still going. I believe a couple years ago he was actually on a sidecar, not actually racing, but running around the Isle of Man, which is one of the world's most dangerous races in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So through that introduction from this gentleman, you were able to secure a sidecar for your motorized bicycle?
No, they don't make them anymore, unfortunately. So I never got the motorcycle or the sidecar for the motorized bicycle. But we are a distribution hub for them. How that came about is I met with Stan Dibben. We talked online. He had a video he was promoting called No Ordinary Passenger, which was produced by Kehl Hopkins and sent out by the New York Times. So I asked him kindly, hey, could I share your story on my website and on my social media? He was like, sure. Well, whether it was due to me or many others, his video went viral. He ended up winning the Motorcycle Film Festival in 2014. And so shortly after that, there was a party at Watsonian, which he was invited to, being, a superstar sidecar racer.
Yeah.
And they were saying they needed new distribution in the United States.
Coincidentally.
So Stan Dibben was kind enough to put my name out there, and we got in contact, and I told them what we are capable of doing, and we became the distribution center for them for all the United States.
That's incredible.
And now North America.
So the fella had won through in good part due to your promotion and giving the film exposure that award for 2014.
Mm-hmm. He won it. Yeah, he won an award at the Motorcycle Film Festival, which he was
Is that video
very
still
pleased
floating around? Or?
Oh yeah, it's on Google. It's on our website, WatsonianSquireUSA.com. It's called No Ordinary Passenger.
No Ordinary Passenger. Mm-hmm. Intriguing.
Yep.
I'll have to take a look.
Yep, it's pretty cool. You should.
Oh my gosh. So you're a distributor. You're a distributor.
A distribution hub. Yeah. We basically take all the orders throughout North America. We process the order. We direct the order to our dealers. Sometimes the customer. We clear customs. We make sure the whole process is seamless. We handle with the payments and then the, transferring USD to the pound and all the stuff that entails.
Take care of all the finer details and everything.
Yep.
You know what I find intriguing about that is the fact that you had a need, right? You had a desire,
mm-hmm.
and you set about, you took action, right? And
yep.
In this case, you went online. You reached out. You found one of the older establishments and for sidecar manufacturing, and through a series of events, it morphed into what it's become. I don't think you could have imagined that at the outset, huh?
No, I don't think I could have imagined being the distribution hub for one of the, basically the world's oldest and largest sidecar manufacturer in the world. I didn't see it, happening like that.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful it did, and I know a good opportunity when I see one.
Sure.
My family's all background in entrepreneurs, so it was just like bling bling. And let's go for it.
That's a great point. Being as an entrepreneur, you kind of view the world through a lens of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You get this idea, and your radar goes up, right?
Yep, it sure does. I try to take all opportunities that come my path and just go for it. Always just say yes. That's
a fabulous principle. I have a friend that believes in the yes principle. It's kind of like Richard Branson. I think he mentions, take the opportunity and figure out how you're going to, digest it or tackle it after the fact. And
just like I'm sitting here with you.
Yeah, it's interesting how we came to meet and same way.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see VonBaron motorcycles. How do you see it unfolding for yourself? What is it you're looking to endeavor to do moving forward?
Well, we started out as a distributor for a lot of products. We sell mostly premium motorcycle products and premium gear and premium apparel, premium parts. And then we've morphed into a repair restoration center. More or less restoration and custom projects is kind of what we do. That's our field of knowledge, per se.
Niche.
Yeah. And we've recently applied to get our motorcycle dealer's license, which we're going through right now. I see, and my wife who works with me, we see opening a storefront that sells vintage style motorcycles and also teaches a history of motorcycles to the people that walk in. So it's not such a pressured sales dealership like you walk into.
Yeah, that's a great way to approach it. I think that long gone are the days of the high pressure, stigma in folks' minds of the used car salesman. It's more of a service minded, how can I help first approach to gleaning customers and creating meaningful relationships.
Yeah, I think it's important, and when people come in and visit the store, I want them to feel at home. I don't want them to feel pressured. Let them have a cup of coffee. We'll probably have a beer and wine bar to kind of ease the tension, because usually when you go into other dealerships, you feel the immediate pressure of a salesperson wanting to put you in a $20,000 motorcycle or whatever.
Yeah, and one of the neat things when I go into your shop is it's so nostalgic, and that vibe is very it's unique. It shows your artistic creativity and your webpage, like just the way to navigate through that. You have a section for all the requisite sections and everything, but just the artistic flair that you brought to the table, it definitely harkens back to that old world, the beginnings of the forefathers of racing and motorcycles. So
thank you very much. The name VonBaron is actually from my grandfather. My grandfather was my great grandfather was Baron von Kehl. So I kind of, Baron von motorcycles just didn't have the vibe per se. So I just kind of switched it around, and once I put it on paper, the old text kind of just made it seem, more nostalgic. And then, of course, I have our dog's head that's on there. That's from my old German Shepherd. His name was Harley. Who just recently passed, sadly, but he was with us a long time, and
like family for sure.
Yeah, like a son.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but you had an opportunity to bring him on board, and you gave him a good life. I do know I was watching you over the past few years care for Harley, and I was sad to see him go too. Big time. I know that hit home for you.
Oh, it hit home.
Yeah.
For not just me too. A lot of people were, touched by him, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. So.
Well, I tell you what, I love the fact that you have this vision, right? And you're executing it every day. I see something new going on over there. I see people come up from all walks of life, and whether it's the hardcore biker or the road racer and the cafe racer, your interests seem to be very vast. And in your shop, I've noticed that too. And it's just unique and it's refreshing. So I wish you all the best in terms of securing that license and seeing your dream come to fruition. I think by staying the course, much like the Watsonian connection, I think that things are going to unfold just the way they're supposed to for you, man. I really do.
Thank you very much. Your mouth to God's ears.
Wow. And now that nostalgic scenario, how do you see that kind of old world sidecar motorcycle, the Springer front ends, et cetera? How does that relate, or how do you account for today's advertising and stuff? Do you utilize social media, or how do you navigate
Well,
that world?
we're pretty big into social media. We currently have many pages through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
So you're availing yourself.
Yeah, we're out there. On Facebook alone, we have groups that we run and Facebook page. One of them called Motorcycle Racing Legends, Sidecar Racing Legends. Another one, a group is Moto Madness, and
Oh, cool
another
names.
group,
Cool
yeah,
names.
another group is Flat Track Racing. All different areas of motorcycling. Basically, I push content out there to teach people about motorcycle racing and sidecar racing and stuff that they don't normally see every day. So we share a lot of photos, and then people that join the groups, they share their photos, and it becomes more of a community.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, the motorcycle world is always evolving and always changing. Now we see electric now, and we see
I was going to ask
simpler
you,
bikes.
I don't mean to cut you short, but in terms of the e-bikes, right, the electric motorcycles, I know that's a huge push, of course, from the auto industry, with the most visible being Tesla and his product line. How do you see that e-bike entering in the marketplace, and is there a place for you in there? And
Well, I think the e-bike is inevitable. It's gonna be a prominent place in the market. My personal opinion is Harley came out with a little too expensive right off the rip. I mean, it's a beautiful bike. It's called the Livewire. I think it's a little too much money for the current. They're trying to push that brand towards the millennials. I don't think it's going to be a winning thing. There's another company called Zero Motorcycles. They're predominantly more successful, but they have their margins for bikes that they're selling are actually more feasible to attain for the younger generation. I think right now most of this generation is spend conscious. They don't want to spend a fortune, but they want nice, and less is more, so to speak. That's why you see the cafe racers and choppers and
more minimalistic.
yeah, minimalistic styles, stuff like that. I don't think that electric's going to go anywhere anytime soon. I think it's going to take off. I mean, it's never going to leave. It's here to stay.
The way I view it, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like, my grandson, for instance, he doesn't understand a rotary dial telephone or a pager or a fax machine. It's just, much like I don't understand the milkman coming around to deliver milk. We've had 7-Elevens and, convenience stores and supermarkets. As the generations kind of blend over and bleed over, I think that's where it's going to be more acceptable. No?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely starting from the bottom all the way up. I mean, from the young generation all the way up to, I mean, you have full-grown adults riding Segways, and I mean, pretty much anything that you could put a motor on, people are putting motors on them.
Exactly.
I mean,
so that would lend itself to the next step being electric. And
oh yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be in the market and push electric motorcycles at some part. I mean, to me, it's not my favorite. Kind of old school. I like the sound of a motor.
Like the smell.
I like the
of
smell of gas.
oil and
I like
gas
to
and-
hear an exhaust.
Yeah.
When you get to that quiet point,
Well, they have those,
it's something you have to get used to.
I would think so. I know I was looking at the Formula One race cars, the Mario Andretti stuff from our youth, and now they have it where it's electric. It's exploding from what I understand. I'm a neophyte and I haven't really dabbled or looked too much into it, but I see that's, it's morphing. So
Oh yeah, it's definitely growing. I mean, and they're just going to keep producing more and more and more and more of them. So I think when they put out an electric bike that actually makes some sound, you might have a few more buyers that are interested.
Well, I know when we were
know.
younger, we put the baseball cards in between the spokes on our bicycles to
Yeah,
make it sound.
that might work. Yeah, it needs some kind of sound to me. That's just my personal opinion about it, but that doesn't mean that other people don't like it, because
Absolutely.
it's really apparent that people do.
Yeah, it's
And and also the technology of batteries is getting so much better every year. The batteries themselves go longer distances and stuff like that. And I'm sure at some point they'll figure out a way to charge them via the sun or whatever.
Solar plates. Yeah.
So the faster technology grows, the more opportunities there are to do electric motorcycles and stuff like that.
So you're an opportunity guy. You look at things as the glass half full. This burgeoning market of the e-bikes coming on. What do you do when times get slow? How do you reconcile that in your mind's eye? Do you how do you summon your strength to say, oh, as being an entrepreneur, how do you find strength?
Well, you just know. I mean, most of the time, you just know that there's always going to be slow times, and you got to try to prepare yourself for that. For us, it's October through December, or just slow months.
Cyclical.
They're just stuff's in and out, but it's very slow. So you just know that that's what you're going to plan for, and that's when you start planning your next stage. What are you going to do? What are you going to put out in the spring? What are you going to concentrate on? You always got to move forward. You can't quit. That's the way I was taught. You just got to keep going.
What does Chris Kehl do for a hobby?
I
you're a busy
used
guy.
to have hobbies. I like to go out in the boat, and I do enjoy riding, of course, but I like to go out in the boat if I ever get a chance, and cruise the Gulf and do some fishing and
we're
get
in
out in
part
the
of
sun
state for that, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, being in this kind of business, you don't get many opportunities to go enjoy the beach as much as I should.
So on your downtime, you're an avid boater, and that's cool. How about what do you like to read or study or anything along those lines? Do you have any?
Actually, right now, I just picked up a book of the President Jefferson. So I'm reading about him, and I like any kind of book that's more get your mind moving. I like positive motivational books. Dale Carnegie. What's this guy's name? There's this guy named Raul Valicius that I listen to his podcasts online on Instagram. He's a promoter and talks about setting your goals and achieving them and not to quit. And his program's called The Edge, and it's a pretty motivational program. He's always got stuff on.
And of course, harkening back to the Dale Carnegie, the how to win friends and influence people.
Yep.
Yeah, that's.
That was a great course, and it's one of those courses that.
You took the course?
Yeah, I took the course.
Oh, wow.
And a graduate from it, but it's one of those courses that always is in the back of your mind, like the 3 C's, for instance: don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Those are some key little thoughts that come from that course that you always tend to keep with you.
How long ago did you take the course?
Oh, gosh. I would say probably around 1996.
Wow.
So quite a while ago. I would love to go back again. It'd be good to get a refresher.
Yeah. But it's cool because it was formative and it's stuck in your mind, right? I mean, you fall back on that still.
Oh yeah, it changed my outlook on a lot of things, and even in talking in front of people and being, in front of people. When I was younger, I was a little more shy, a little bit, quiet, kept to myself a little bit. After going to Dale Carnegie, I was more outgoing and didn't have the fear of facing people and.
Which is key as a businessman, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with the general public. You've got to make certain phone calls at times, and coming out of your shell. That he was instrumental. The course was instrumental, rather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my father sent me the course, and I tried kicking and screaming not to go. And
isn't that funny?
I'm glad he took. I went and I loved it, and I'm glad I went. So I thank him for that. Thanks, Dad, if you're listening.
Yeah. Yeah, something tells me he is.
Yeah. So it's anything like that is Gary Vaynerchuk or
Gary V.
Yeah, Gary V. He's motivational. He's
indeed.
Yeah, he's pretty powerful dude. He's gets people up and gets people to
want
to go Robbins, do it. Right? Stop being lazy. Get your butt out there and do it.
Yeah, and I think that he appeals to the generation coming up right now, much like maybe Tony Robbins or Dale Carnegie back in his day. Yeah, that's fantastic. So you are an entrepreneur. You've got this flourishing business going on that you're growing and it's ever evolving. I know probably you couldn't see yourself back when you were a youngster, but as a youngster, what is there any advice that you would give yourself? I know a lot of people ask this question, but I find it curious to the answers. What kind of advice would you give a younger Chris Kehl to say, you know, this is the route to take, or what advice would you have a younger version of yourself?
Save money for a rainy day. That would be the best advice I would give myself. I mean, seriously. I mean, if, you know, money comes and goes, and sometimes you can make it quick and you can lose it just as fast. So, you know, save for a rainy day. Don't think it's always going to be there. You know, don't take things for granted, you know, like it's just going to be there tomorrow, or work's going to be great, or business is going to be great. You know, as quick as you go up, as quick as you can fall down. You know,
that's a big lesson,
so
right?
you got to keep yourself from falling down. You know?
Excellent. And then just to piggyback on that, fast forward, right?
Yep.
Say 5 years from now, VonBaron motorcycles. Do you envision yourself with that storefront? It sounds like you've got a plan in your mind's eye. Mm-hmm. How do you see yourself in 5 years?
We have probably something I hadn't discussed with you yet. VonBaron motorcycles, once we get the store up and running, and once everything is, you know, working as a system and working in place, and, you know, everything is done in the store, my long-term vision is to build a board track for board track racing.
What's board track racing?
Board track racing is a sport that ended in like the early 1900s, where guys used to run around on tracks, on wooden tracks with a steep 3-to-1 pitch, and they ran on board tracks, and they ran over 100 miles an hour without brakes, without clutches. Now there is a gentleman that's doing board track racing, except without the board track, and he is actually was out of Southern Florida. And anyway, he's doing some board track racing events around just regular cement tracks. Now using old, early pre-war motorcycles.
Is board track racing? I mean, no brakes, no clutch, 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, you have to be pushed to start, and you get pushed to start, and then when you basically just got to slow down and let off the gas.
What's the attrition ratio? Like injuries, or is it?
It was back in the day. It was a very dangerous sport, and the board track is actually a mile long in a circle, but it has a 3-to-1 pitch. So basically, when you're going, I mean, you're literally leaning sideways almost the whole time. So it's kind of
like a NASCAR banking racetrack?
Correct. And that's pretty much when it all started, when motordrome racing it was called a motordrome. Board track racing was called a motordrome. When it all started, they used to have about 50 board tracks around the country, and people would go to the event. Harley, Indian were some of the biggest racers. They were the biggest name brand racers, and Thor and many other companies. They were out there, and they were all racing and competing in this board track racing. So it was a really popular event until the late, I think it was, I want to say like 1910, 1911. New York Times, a guy named Eddie Hasha was racing around the track, and he flew off the track and killed some pedestrians that were watching the races. So what happened was, because the racers were sitting over top of the track at the time. So literally, so you can look down and see the racers.
Interesting. I'm trying to get a visual. That's.
Yeah, it's something to see for sure. You can visit our website, VonBaronMotorcycles.com, and you can see all about board track racing. I have a video on there, and there's a description of what it is and how it started. But when this guy flew off the track, what happened was the New York Times came out and listed it as the murder-drome. Well, when they coined that phrase, a murder-drome, basically it started killing attendance. And more and less people started coming to the races because they were scared somebody was going to get hurt. Well, when the racing was popular, there was more than 80,000 people attending these events. Sometimes whole towns would be at these races watching the motordrome races. So, I mean, it was a very popular sport for quite a long time.
And so your objective is to reintroduce that into the
consciousness? To build another board track. Yes, to build not only one, but maybe a few across the United States, and then hopefully it'll catch on, and they'll start building them elsewhere.
It's funny because that motorsports in general is such a huge, market. Gleans hundreds of thousands of fans and advertising dollars, and that's interesting. I've never heard of that before.
Well, I mean, it's one of those kind of sports that if you don't know all the details about motorcycling, you might have missed. It could very easily miss you. There was a program on Discovery Channel about it not too long ago that kind of talks about board track racing and stuff like that.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it's a really cool sport, and it really deserves a comeback. Unfortunately, back in the day when it all happened and it started reaching its demise with the murder drone listed in the New York Times and stuff like that. Unfortunately, and also the tracks were built to pine. They warped and frayed, and
They just couldn't take a beating. I would think today, with today's technology and advances, it's got to be, maybe a revisit is due.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's better building products, hardwoods, and
okay. So you say you don't have any hobbies. Mm-hmm. I'm not buying it.
I have a few. Yeah, but that's something I'd like to.
That's a big vision.
I see. It's something I see in the future.
That's a worthy ideal.
Yeah,
it's
not a lighthearted vision. It'll cost about $50 million.
Yeah, but
you know
what's funny? I don't know. Call me naive, right? I think that the old adage, if you do what you love, the money will follow. Mm-hmm. As long as you have that heart, that mindset of service, and of course you would be serving a need, and that is a need to be, to witness a something that's unique and different, and it's not like it didn't have legs in the past.
Oh,
so, that's I think that I would encourage you to just keep that before your mind, and again, circling back to the outset of the conversation, whereby where do I get a sidecar for my bicycle? Mm-hmm. And boom. You're a distributorship or distributor hub for Watsonian, the oldest sidecar brand, and that the logo too. Again, it's getting back to your storefront at present. Just the way it's on the window, and it's funny how things kind of unfold. Mm-hmm. And so I wouldn't not discount it, man. That's a great ideal. And
well, I plan on continuing as long as I'm able, as long as I'm breathing. I'll continue to go for goals and set them. I set them big, Why set small goals? Set big goals,
Absolutely.
Because if you reach them, it's all.
And nothing ventured. There's not. And so what if you don't hit it? What if you don't hit it?
Then I don't hit it.
But in the meantime, you've had all this enjoyment.
Yeah.
It's been you poured yourself into it, and boy, I'm excited for you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go out.
I appreciate that.
No, I'm serious. I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to do some research and homework on it.